Well, we are back after almost a break of a month, and fittingly it was pouring rain as I travelled into the Strual Arts, truly not looking forward to spending the next 3 days incarcerated at the PI. It had all the feeling of returning to school after a wonderful summer. I guess the only plus point was that it is just for 3 days, and then we have another long break until September 1st. Though I don't know which is worse, having yet more time to savour life, than having once more to return as earth protectors to somewhat thankless job of saving life. One thing that did strike me before proceedings even began this morning was this. We're about to spend 3 full days discussing lighting and dark skies. And just last month, subjects including blasting, radon, norm, public health and electromagnetic fields were each allocated the same comparatively limited hearing time, also of 3 days. That is to say, all of those subjects were discussed in 3 days. I'm not making a judgment about why that is, only observing how the inquiry has chosen to distribute its time. It does make one reflect on how different issues come to occupy different amounts of space in a process like this. Now, if you had to sit through what we did today, and then I was to record blow by blow the proceedings of the day, I guarantee you it would probably be the last podcast you would listen to about the public inquiry. I am quite sure you're not tuning in because you care about lux levels, upward lighting, intermittent lighting, diffuse lighting, and so on. I was balking at the prospect of 3 consecutive podcasts about lighting. It slowly dawned on me during the course of the day that this wasn't really about lighting at all. It is about what darkness means. Early on, the podcast was primarily reporting what happened. Increasingly, it is becoming something richer, more a daily reflection on what the evidence says about a relationship with place, power, nature and community. Yet here we are in the Sperrins, weighing a living landscape against the promise of more gold. One is the product of millions of years of evolution supporting the whole web of life for generations. The other is a mere metal that cannot be eaten or drank, whose sole worth exists largely because we have collectively agreed that it does. My question is, what should we value most at this moment in history? Especially at this time when nature, the environment, and the future of us all hang by the slimmest thread, when wildfires roar to our doors, people flee from climate catastrophe, crops, water and energy supplies begin to fail across the world. Have we completely lost the run of ourselves? What is truly valuable? For such an intelligent species, we do some dumb stuff. To get back to the topic in hand, darkness isn't simply the absence of light. It has a value all of its own. In fact, some writers have even coined a new word for what we're losing as our night skies slowly disappear. They call it noctalgia, a sense of longing for the darkness and the stars that our ancestors took for granted. For thousands of years, every human being who ever lived looked up at the same night sky. Those stars guided travellers long before there were roads. They shaped stories and myth and folklore, and they helped mark the seasons and the passing of time. They gave people a sense of where they were in the world, and perhaps where they fitted into it. Today, for many children, the Milky Way is something they've only ever seen in photographs. And perhaps the saddest thing is that we hardly notice what's disappearing because it happens so gradually. And then there's the wildlife. We often talk about protecting habitats, but we don't think about protecting darkness itself. Yet countless species have evolved over millions of years around the natural rhythm of day and night. Birds migrate by it, and bats depend on it, Moths and other insects rely on it to feed and pollinate our plants. Even the tiniest disruption can ripple through an entire ecosystem. Darkness is not an empty space between one day and the next. It's part of the natural order of things. And when you think about it, the darkness is always there. It's only ever broken by the light of, say, the sun or the stars or the moon. And we're no different. Our own bodies are governed by these same rhythms. We sleep because of darkness. It tells us the time to rest. Our hormones, our body clocks, even our well-being are closely tied to the natural cycle of light and dark. We're now only beginning to understand just how important that rhythm really is. Perhaps darkness isn't something we've been given to conquer. Perhaps it's something we've been given to protect. And nowhere does that feel more obvious than here in the Sperrins. People don't come here because the roads are brightly lit or because the skyline glows through the night. They come because they can find something that's becoming increasingly rare. They come for the silence, for the wide open skies, for the rivers and the hills, for the feeling that, just for a while, the world slows down. Darkness is every bit as much a part of this landscape as the peat beneath our feet, the heather on the hillside, and the rivers flowing through the valleys. Darkness also changes how we experience the world. When daylight fades, the landscape asks something different of us. We walk more slowly. We listen more carefully. Our senses sharpen. Silence stops being empty and becomes something almost tangible. Darkness is not as something bleak, but as a place of belonging, a landscape that has shaped our folklore, history, imagination, and our relationship with the nature of the world for generations. This is what darkness means. And whatever view you hold about this proposal, I suspect most of us have stood outside on a clear winter night, looked up, and felt something difficult to put into words. The question is whether experiences like this still have value in our increasingly illuminated world. That's it for now, and see you all tomorrow.